Hello, I'm Kads, and welcome to today's video. So today is another episode of Champion Showcases chosen by you guys, the community, on my community tab page, and the winner of the most recent one was Wallmaster Othorion, so we're going to be diving into him today. Now, Wallmaster Othorion is a fairly recent addition to the game, I want to say within the past 2 or 3 months, and I was fortunate enough to pull him during his 10x during a 2x Ancients event a couple months back. Very lucky, super happy, and he has done wonders for my account since then. And all things considered, he has a relatively simple kit, so let's run through it very quickly, starting off with the A1. Simple thing, AoE attack, notably will not trigger counterattacks, which is pretty cool, like for like the nether spider type stuff. And after the attack, it fills his turn meter by 5% for each living enemy. So if there are 4 enemies alive, it's 20%, and if there are 5 enemy mobs, then it would be 25%. So a pretty substantial amount of turn meter gain just from taking or just from using the A1. On the A2, probably his most bread and butter ability, what he's most known for. AoE 2-time hitter that has a 100% chance when booked of placing block buffs on the first hit and decrease attack on the second. And then it also has the fills turn meter by 5% for each living enemy after the attack. So once again, you can get 20 to 25% or up to 25% depending on the number of enemy waves. But of course, the most important thing is that these are based on attack and enemy max HP. Now, granted, the multipliers are a lot lower than say a Cold Heart, Royal Guard, or a Husk, but nonetheless, if you have enough crit damage and damage dealing stats on him, you can definitely cap on most of the bosses in the game, and so it could be a substantial double hit. Think of this like one of Akrizia's hits, where it's a double hit or enemy max HP hit. So it's pretty substantial, or it can be pretty substantial. And then on the A3, extra turn ability that gives him increased attack, increased accuracy, and increased speed on himself for 3 turns, and then grants an extra turn. Super nice ability, makes him an excellent candidate for a mischief tank. And then the passive, because he is a notably attack-based, so he can be fairly squishy, but as soon as he starts killing enemies or decapitating Hydra heads, he increases his max HP by 20% up to a cap of 50,000. So whatever you have, he can be 50,000 higher, especially over the duration of longer battles where he's going to be killing a lot of enemies, of course, with the enemy max HP hit. So what is his build? As you might guess just from reading the kit, it definitely screams Hydra, especially the passive, making it specifically noted that his passive works against decapitated or while decapitating heads. So he is definitely used in Hydra, but he's also used in a couple other areas on my account, and we're going to show those all today. But his build is definitely a very high-end endgame type build. So we have a double perception, 2-piece stone skin, which is effectively a resistance set, and then 1 piece of supersonic, a little bit of extra resistance. Total stats are as follows: 52,000 on the HP, 3,300 on the attack, 2,300 on the defense, 238 on the speed, full crit rate, 222 on the crit damage, 450 on the resistance. So again, he's a mischief tank for my Nightmare Hydra team. And then 244 on the accuracy. But when you account for the fact that he puts increased accuracy on himself with the A3, this is effectively around 350 or so, a little bit higher than that. For the blessing, I did opt for Lightning Cage because, like I said, he is one of the mischief tanks on my Hydra team. And so this just gives him another buff, which makes it more likely that he becomes the candidate for that purpose. So that is why I want him to do that as much as possible, because he is built with high resistance. In terms of masteries, he's kind of doing the standard debuffer stuff on the left-hand side, coming down the offense tree, ending on Wallmaster for the extra damage against bosses. Obviously, he's basically always attacking with the A1 or the A2. And then on the support tree, it starts off with the standard debuffer masteries, but then I went for the split between lasting gifts to make his buffs last a bit longer every so often, again improving the quality or the capability of him as a mischief tank, but also Master Hexer, because increasing the duration of decreased attack and block buffs is also advantageous. So we're splitting between those two on the support tree. So in terms of the areas where I use them, we might as well start with the most obvious choice, of course, and that being Hydra Clan Boss. And so yes, he is most certainly on my Nightmare level Hydra Clan Boss, the hardest difficulty in the game. And for the first time, I actually did run this team live on my Twitch channel. I finally decided to get back into streaming, and they will be taking place every other Saturday at 9:30 a.m. Pacific. The first one we had was super fun, and this is most certainly the best way for you guys to interact directly with me when I play the game, or how I think about the game and other things like that. So if that is something of interest, then feel free to drop a follow on my Twitch channel, which will be linked in the description box down below, so you'll be notified the next time I go live, which should be in a couple of weeks. But enough of the shameless self-promotion. So you can see on this particular composition, Wallmaster Othorion is actually the hard carry for the team. Mishinaki is a close second, but you have to understand that Mishinaki does get a lot of credit for the hex damage, which is a lot of damage when you consider that we have 2 enemy max HP champions on the team. So Husk is coming in pretty decent as well, and you can see that he's almost double Husk's damage, not quite. So Husk gets a little bit more credit just because he's in Relentless, so he gets more turns on average, and so he ends up getting closer or above half, even though effectively he'd be doing half damage, right? 1 hit enemy max HP versus a double hitter. So for an endgame free-to-play non-trend to cheese type Hydra team, this is pretty nice. I like where this damage is at, to over 200 million on average. I would say usually it's somewhere between like 180 230 depending on affinity of the heads and good or bad RNG. But yeah, he's most certainly the hard carry for my Hydra team. The next area that I use him in may come as a surprise, but it is actually the Phantom Shogun's Grove on stage 25. So we can see the team composition right here. We have Whisper as our primary DPS. Then we have the enemy max HP hitters and Cold Heart and Wallmaster Othorion, because in this case it's fairly easy, at least fairly easy now after the nerfs to the boss, to hit the enemy max HP cap. We have Riho Bone Spear as our primary debuffer as well as our cleanser, and then the Enfeeble tank is Tolf the Memed. So because it's a lot easier to hit the enemy max HP cap on the boss, it made more sense for me to run a double hitter instead of a single hitter. I think this was basically, I had 2 Cold Hearts more or less running the team. So swapped him in. He did wonders. He's a little bit more powerful. I guess he's twice as powerful as another Cold Heart, and so it just made a lot of sense to throw him into the team. So it takes about 40-ish seconds. So let's go ahead and run it. Hopefully we get some pretty decent RNG. Now this is relatively speed tuned. At least Riho is. She's speed tuned for stage 25. So I think she's like 284 speed, somewhere around there. But it's pretty straightforward. You know, everyone is doing a bunch of damage. 1 cycle basically gets us over half. So it's probably possible that I could change out Tolf and put in like a reset champion, like a Renegade. That's the only one that I have. And assuming we don't get bad RNG with the hits, it would be possible to, or it should be possible to just double cycle, reset everyone, and then we just repeat the same abilities with stuff on. But even without it, you know, you can see here, we didn't get Brimstone. That's why it's probably taking a bit longer. But as soon as we get back to the abilities here on Cold Heart, Ender, Wallmaster. Okay, Wallmaster is going to be the Ender. There you go. So there you go. About 50 seconds or so, Wallmaster getting the final hit. So pretty quick. I don't need this to be, you know, 10-second farm, right? It's good enough for me. Under a minute is more than acceptable, because, you know, the main thing is you don't want him to get a bunch of stacks and start doing a bunch of crazy stuff. So pretty quick team. I'm happy with it, and he just fit right into the team as he was built in the Hydra build. And the last area that I use him is actually against a couple of bosses in the Doom Tower. I recently reworked my Eternal Dragon team to fit him in. So we have Galathir in there. He's primarily just a healer cleanser. This could be anyone. It could be Pythion. But, you know, if I have a better champion, I'm going to put them in. So Wallmaster Othorion, one of our primary DPS. We have double HP burn, double activation. So we're taking advantage of the minions. And then Lydia is there to be the debuffer, and also, or just allow Wallmaster Othorion to do more enemy max HP damage, or closer to the cap, just because, you know, without debuffing, he's just not going to cap out his damage. And reworking this team, even though I don't usually farm this boss on this rotation of Doom Tower, rotation 2, I usually farm the Griffin, but iterating on this team to fit him in, it dropped my time from about 2.5 minutes to about 90 seconds, which is pretty impressive, if I may say so myself. Unfortunately, I was on autopilot when reset came around, so I already ran all of my keys, and this is literally the last day of rotation 2, the last few hours of rotation 2, so I can't actually show you the run in this case, but you know, you can believe me, the time is there, and it is most certainly with this team. So he came in there, it came in clutch, and once again, like, the high resistance build is helpful for this particular fight. I guess I can show you the stats on everyone. So basically everyone here is high resistance. So Galathir 664, Othorion we looked at 450, Artak is 432, Gizmax 440, and then Lydia is 435. So once we get to the boss, he basically doesn't get a bunch of turn meter from trying to lock us out, and no one gets locked out, and they all have enough accuracy if they need it to do their jobs, him included. So pretty effective team. I like it, and if I ever have a need for the Bloodthirst set, currently don't, but if I did, then it would be a relatively quick farm to switch over. So that is one area. And then I haven't tested this team yet, but I did swap him out for, I had Dark Kale in this spot here against the Magic Affinity Magma Dragon, which again, this is rotation 1 of the Doom Tower, so that's not going to be around for another month or so. And so I can't actually test this, but I believe it should function if the same, if not better than that composition, just because instead of relying on poison damage, we're adding in more enemy max HP to pair in with the Husk. And so I have a Sentinel, believe it or not, rare champion, but he has one of the highest chances to provoke on his A1, so don't sleep on him if you're really desperate for Magma Dragon provokers. But double provoke between Husk and Sentinel, ally attack to help in case they don't land it for some reason with Lone Otharion. Also, the shielding helps protect the team, but he's honestly not really that essential, so I might change him as well once the rotation 1 comes back around, see if I can run it a bit faster. Herndig, primary debuffer, and then obviously Wallmaster, secondary DPS. So all in all, Wallmaster Othorion is most certainly more than just a Hydra champion. He can do so much more. He's basically just like a Husk or a Royal Guard that you could use them in any type of dungeon content where you just want to deal enemy max HP damage on an AoE, and so he just works just as well as any of those guys. A couple of other things I could honorably mention here is that he is being used currently in the Talarian Dragon tournament, at least at the time of this recording, so he is on that team just because he's in the Talarian League within those factions, so I'm just using him against the Dragon for this particular niche challenge tournament. So another form of PvE outside of Hydra that he's being used in. And I also want to show you guys kind of the foundation of a Spider Hard 10 team. It doesn't work as far as actually one-shotting the boss, but it is something that could most certainly work if he was more optimized for maximum damage as compared to being optimized in my case for like Hydra, mischief tanking, and then secondarily doing some DPS. So in this comp, we have a fairly standard like HP burn activation team. We have Lydia in the mix as our primary debuffer, and she's the fastest on the team. That way we can make sure that the extra spiderlings do spawn. Walking Tomb Dragon goes next, places the irresistible HP burn, and so it's guaranteed to do that every single cycle. But of course, Lydia's abilities could be resisted here and there. And then we have 2 HP burn activators, Theodore and Artak. Those could be anyone who does that ability on an AoE. And then we round it off with Wallmaster Othorion, 2 enemy max HP hits on the spider, but he also ends up killing the spiderlings, which does more damage to the boss. And so if he had more firepower and was closer to the cap, which I think is like 1.4 million or something like that, somewhere up there, if he could actually do it, then I'd probably be able to do this in one shot and one go. So we can run this really quickly so you guys can see the concept of this team in action. And again, if he was more optimized for damage and savage, cruel, all that mix, then he would be able to actually do the perfect job and make this kind of a one-shot type composition. So boom, boom, he kills all the spiderlings and almost just barely a sliver of health left on the spider. So it's pretty close, even with my like 222 crit damage. If he probably had like 250, or honestly probably just the savage set, if I put the savage set on him, he'd probably be there. But for the purpose of showcasing this, it works. It's 30 seconds, so it's not a 15-second run like my default team, but it's close enough, and I think that could definitely work for some people who happen to have all of the champions, don't need them for Hydra, and you just want one of those speed farm Spider 10 hard mode teams. Other than that, of course, he would be useful, farming Minotaur's Labyrinth, enemy max HP, where it's on, or any area where enemy max HP isn't capped, so anything stage 20 and below for the normal dungeons he'd be useful for. If we want to talk about just other areas, Faction Wars, of course, is going to be useful there. Centranos, Cursed City is going to be useful. He's not really an arena champion. That's not really his niche, although I did see him once in the arena on a team. It was very strange. But, he's meant for PvE. That is most certainly clear. And you could basically use him wherever you'd like to, but I will admit that his primary agency is most certainly Hydra Clan Boss. So that's going to do it for the showcase of Wallmaster Othorion, at least the way that I use him and the ways that I think he could be useful in other forms of PvE outside of Hydra Clan Boss. With another champion down, that does mean once again it is time to put up another poll, so stay tuned for that one coming out shortly for you guys to vote on the next champion showcase you would like to see on the channel. As always, if you found this video helpful, then be sure to hit that like button down below, and if you enjoyed the video, then feel free to subscribe to the channel for more content just like this one in the future. Thanks for watching, and have a good one.